Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Connect podcast. Today we're on with Dianna Jacobsen from Shine Up Business. Hi, Dianna. Thanks for coming on.
Hi, Brooke. Thanks for inviting me.
So, can you give us a little bit more information about what Shine Up Business is, your values, and how you got started?
Sure. We are in regional Victoria, but we work all over Australia. We did Zoom with everyone before Zoom was a thing. But
Oh,
I grew up on in a farming family in southern New South Wales, and growing up, we were reasonably isolated. Our community was small. I went to a school with about 20 kids, and every now and then families would move away. And in a small community, that has a deep impact. And as I got older, I realised that often they hadn't wanted to move away. It was to do with families or with finance. And for me, I was very passionate about helping those people. So I went into accounting, got a little way down the track and realised it's not just about the numbers on the page, it's very much about the people. So I've added a whole heap of other qualifications and just different ranges, different modalities of learning. So things like counselling and psychology and financial planning and facilitation and time management and all sorts of things like that. Because in Australia, financial services is very delineated between accounting, financial planning, lending, legal, and so on. And to me, that is one conversation that should be had around the kitchen table or the office table. And so I've got a range of qualifications and a wonderful cohort of other professionals and colleagues. And we treat business management, business growth and development, troubleshooting as one conversation that we help people get an integrated and cohesive plan.
that's awesome. So, do you work with a lot of small businesses? Can you explain to us your demographic?
Sure. So predominantly our team, we are geared to help small business. So mum and dads, family businesses. I believe that bigger businesses tend to have their own in-house professionals in most of the fields that we cover. But the huge plethora of small business, and even more so out in regional and rural and remote areas, don't have access to that and don't have the capability of probably paying for some of those things. That's where we want to be and make a difference.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. How is it working with regional businesses versus ones in, say, bigger cities like Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane?
Sure, and we have some of those clients on our list as well. We specialise in business succession planning, so predominantly farm succession planning, just given our rural and remote nature. But again, the resources in rural, regional, and remote areas are somewhat more limited, and the advice sometimes doesn't give people the scope that they need. And that's really the space that we want to work in. I spend about half of my time travelling around Australia and the other half of my time in our office. Some of our team are based locally and work in the office. Other members of our team, some of our accountants and bookkeepers, around the country on cattle farms in Queensland or other farms in regional New South Wales, whatever the case might be, and we work as a team and we work with people everywhere.
That's awesome. Yeah, and it's so interesting because the rural areas are so overlooked, but they're the ones who actually need the most help most of the time.
That's right. They're the ones that produce the food for the country and get no notice and no acknowledgement except when there's a shortage or a strike or a drought or a COVID or something when suddenly, they're in the limelight for not perhaps the right reasons. They also get a lot of enormously bad publicity that is often very misconstrued, and I have, huge issue with that. I run a cattle farm myself. I grew up on thousands of acres of wheat and sheep farm. I'm very much still hands-on in our cropping and animal programs, and work with the business management side of this for people everywhere to I guess correlate and link their reality. Has it rained? Hasn't it rained? What's going on in commodity prices and so forth? With what does that reflect on the books? How do we manage your bank debt? How do we manage your operating costs? How can we bring all this stuff on the page into your reality in a workable way?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's awesome. And like you talked about how you brought together counseling and accounting and bookkeeping. How did you actually have that vision and bring it to life?
this sounds quite trite, but to me it was really apparent that this was being overlooked. And the more demarcation that our financial services underwent, beginning in the year 2000, and then there's iterations from then on with the various facets of financial planning, accounting, banks, law, and so on. And yet it should be one cohesive plan. But each area is so regulated and licensed in their narrow and becoming narrower area that there was a lot of cracks in between where the communication fell down between those various areas of expertise. And this is where people were really getting caught out and still are, because they don't know what they don't know, and they think that their bank manager or their accountant tells them everything they need to know, but they don't understand how much more narrow this generation of advice is because of the regulations than perhaps what they've grown up with or parents have had. So what we find is people getting caught very badly by state taxes such as stamp duty, because that is nothing to do with their accountant, but they don't realise that they haven't been told these things. So huge damage control is really what's brought me more and more alert to this.
So when you were growing up on the farm, were these some of the things that you faced? Is your family faced, I guess, so to say?
It was tough. It still is tough in that world because you are so much at the mercy of so many other factors. And but having said that, the farming fraternity as a whole is not like a whinging cohort. We hear references to whinging farmers, and it's really unfortunate because for the most part, they are the most optimistic and resilient and hardworking and tenacious. And yes, they might go for 12 months without rain. We've just had a whole year with barely any rain. And everyone's kind of limped through the year to feed and water their stock and hope their crops grow, things like that. But you then realise as you get older how that plays out, not just in financial management, but obviously in family relationships and breakdown of relationships. And also, I hate this as a generalisation, but so much in that mental health space, because and to me, there's a lot of measures out there to help rural people in this mental health. Some is communicated appropriately and some isn't. But at the end of the day, a lot of the time people need a plan, not a pill. They just need to manage so much more of what they see as uncontrollable, and there could be so much more framework put around a lot of those things as safety nets, and that's where I believe the awareness is lacking. We can put some business frameworks around it. We can put some, emotional framework, I guess, around that, and not just have everyone at the mercy of so many other factors.
100%. Do you feel it was very hard to break into that sector when you're starting out? How is it with client acquisition? What challenges did you face when actually starting Shine a business?
For me, very little, because that's my world.
Mm.
I'm from that world. I pretty much wear jeans and boots every day of the year. I'm out on farms. Me and my four-wheel drive ute do 1,000,000 miles a year up all sorts of tracks to visit these people and see their reality, sit at their kitchen table, stand in their stockyards or their wool shed or their machinery shed, and understand their world. So for me, because I come from that world, because I still have a cattle farm and that is still very much reality for me, I think that makes all the difference, because I always say country people have like a bullshit meter a mile high. And I think really the resistance comes when you have people that don't understand their world, don't understand their problems, or are perhaps patronising around it, meaning well, no doubt, but also just not having the understanding of what it really means to be in that day after day, year after year. Also, the sentiment around your land is super important. I've certainly had that growing up, and on one side, I'm an 8th generation farmer, not all on the same farm, but you just have that attachment to your land. So when people say, "I'll just buy another farm," if you lose that one, it is so not the same. But I think for me, there wasn't too much barrier to entry, and we have, a significant increase in our business and the waiting list, hence a few more staff, but it still stays at the size that I can manage it and the conversations are with me.
So it seems like you have a personalized experience with each of your clients. So they never feel like they're overlooked or anything like that, it seems like.
And I think that's the really important part. Through the drought from 2017 to 2019, we had huge pressure on families, and there were a number of families that between myself and my team, we would ring them at least once a day, every day. There was a couple of, in this case, guys, wife had left, kids in one case were there, other case were gone, elderly parents not well on the farm, and just so much pressure, and just that touch base every day, checking in, how you going, you're not alone, and them having someone to call or even just flick, I've got this form or I've got this letter from the bank or I've got this something or other, how are we going to deal with it? I think that part, whether it's in a really difficult period of time or just normal times, is super important. And again, particularly in that rural part, because these people feel really alone. If they look around, it looks like everyone else is going okay and maybe they're failing. And the other thing that I think is very unique in that space is that they often have the burden of multiple generations on their shoulders, that if they don't get it right, they have just lost, 4 generations worth of work is the innate sense.
Yeah.
So it's so much more so than perhaps another sort of career.
Yeah, no, and that makes sense. And I think the pressure, like you had mentioned, plays a critical part on a lot of people in the rural areas because they want to withhold that family name and trust. And it's hard when a lot of it is out of your control. If you look at like the industries where you do have that control, like for example, in finance, so to say, it can always be resolved, right? Like, and it's not like you're a doctor, but whereas you have no control over the amount of rain or if you're going to be in a drought, and you still have to produce even in the toughest conditions. And that is just a lot of pressure in itself. And like you said, the mental health, when no one else really understands, unless you're in that situation and have grown up with it, is really hard to wrap your head around for someone who's coming from, say, a major city.
Absolutely. And often well meant, so no disrespect there, but you,
Of course.
I doubt you could understand it to the depth that
Right.
it exists if you haven't lived that.
Yep, no, 100%. So what with Shine Up Business are your core values?
I would say just that, I don't even know what the word is for it, but just that always being there, and not just for the financial stuff, that people can phone, particularly myself, but any of our team at any time of the day or night or weekend or Christmas Day or whatever, to say, what the heck do I do?
Yep.
And also that anyone that's in a challenging situation, reach out, ask for another opinion, ask for another, conversation around advice, because I've also seen a lot of terrible outcomes that perhaps could have been addressed differently if they had another person giving them some suggestions.
Yeah, that makes total sense. So what is your vision for Shine Up Business? What do you want to do in the next 5 years?
Pretty much what we're doing now. We
Okay.
don't particularly like we welcome new clients. We are very much in that space. We don't always take on the accounting work for people. A lot of the work that we do is more strategic or consultative. So just either the succession planning or strategic planning, where we come in, work with them maybe over a year, put everything in order, and then they continue on with their own accountant and financial planner and other advisors, fill in the gaps as we need, put some framework in place, get it all go in the same direction, and then they're right. But they've always got us to come back to anytime they just need to check in on that. And that's the sort of stuff that I really enjoy doing, because, again, respectfully, most advisors work in a fairly micro view with accounting and compliance or with their debt structuring or whatever. We very much take that macro view, work with all of those people, put it all together, fill in any cracks that we see, and give the people a sense of empowerment and understanding about what it is that they need to do to keep growing their business, managing their financial affairs, and troubleshooting the tough times.
No, I love that. Empowerment is really like a strong word that makes people, it makes them sleep at night because
Exactly.
you're doing it and you have a whole package and you have someone who's there for you every step of the way. And that's what a lot of people lack when they're looking for that kind of person to lean on, especially when they're trusting them with their finances. To begin with, that's a huge thing to give up control of.
That's right, and we have an inside view on their family relationships and their own well-being as well. So to me, I know that it's not the normal mold for accounting or consulting businesses in the finance space, but that's really how we like to work, and I think would totally be our point of difference that we're out there and we're sharing the road with them.
Right, and getting to know someone, it shows it starts to bring to life in a way why they're in the financial part that they are in at that current time. Because it's hard to say, hey, I have a problem with my finances. Like no one likes to say, hey, I'm struggling, But
Exactly.
understanding at the root of the problem, or like not the challenge, it's not even a problem, it's a challenge that they're currently facing that you help them get out of. And that's something that can change someone's life because they don't feel that they can actually lift themselves up past it. If that, I feel.
Absolutely. And the more they get weighted down, like emotionally, the less you can think clearly and constructively because you just go into that sort of fight or flight. And I describe it when I'm working with people, I do a lot of diagrams with colored texters, like a staircase level. And we just get comfortable on one level, and then we either have some growth in our business or we hit a challenge or a roadblock or something else happens. And then it's like we're trying to scramble up a cliff face.
Yep.
And weighted down with rocks sometimes. So it's about having someone reach out from above, going, "I can help you. We can work out the steps. It'll be okay." Because everyone's an expert at what they do, whether it's farming or hairdressing or plumbing or whatever. That doesn't make them an expert at business management and finance. And it doesn't mean they have to be. It means you have to find other people to help in that space, and you work as a team.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that you said team because the thing is it's always better to work in a team because you can bounce ideas back and forth and it gives you a different perspective. Like obviously it's nice you want it to go one way, but hearing someone else's opinion and feedback and constructive criticism actually can help you move forward in a business way faster most of the time.
Absolutely. And just to put a bit of strategic planning around it so that it might happen in stages or steps over a time frame makes it a lot more digestible
Yep, and achievable.
financially, emotionally, mentally,
Yeah.
physically. And also just the breadth of experience that we can bring to that conversation versus any one person or one family trying to reinvent the wheel.
Right. And it makes having milestones makes achievable milestones, right? So most
Correct.
people, it just looks like a mess up front. And then once you say, okay, well, you already hit this, like this success point, you can kind of be like, okay, that's a first breath of fresh air. And that's sometimes all you need to be like, okay, you know what? This is a good team. Let's drive this business forward together. But a lot of people have trust issues, like to let go of certain elements of their business, which is fair. They got it there. Like
Correct.
it's not that it's not a successful business. It's just there's going to be hurdles along the way, and just getting a different perspective can sometimes drive growth in ways that you would have never thought of on your own.
Exactly. And the other thing that makes a huge difference, and I know this is a really weird thing for an accountant to say, is totally about mindset. So
Mm,
to raise money, you need to raise mindset. And it's not about being Pollyanna and pretending it's all wonderful if it's not, but it is about raising, I guess, your sense of optimism or resilience or energy, vibration, whatever you want to call it, to be able to then work to that level.
mm.
Um, and that's where working together makes such a difference than someone that's just continuing to struggle on the hamster wheel and not getting anywhere.
No, and that's a great piece of advice. I definitely agree with that 100%, especially for business owners. That's something that, it's hard to hear, but once you like actually get yourself talking to other people and like hearing different insights, it can actually help to grow the business in a different way than you would have expected to. Is there
Exactly.
any piece of advice that you would give to businesses in this position right now?
It's probably not that they're doing the wrong things. They might be doing all the right things, but the key words that I fall back on are the structure, the strategy, and the sequence. So it's a bit like a recipe to make a cake. If you throw the wrong things in the wrong order, it just doesn't work. And again, this is where some expertise and guidance helps, as well as just that morale boost that somebody's there with you that's perhaps trod the path before or can see it with fresh eyes.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much for coming on today, Diana. If someone wants to get in touch with you or Shine at Business, what's the best way to contact you?
We've got Facebook pages, we've got websites, my number's on there. I do not charge to have a chat with people if you just want a second opinion or to troubleshoot something or just suss out. There's no strings attached. We really have that philosophy of we're here to set people on the right path. So, yeah, just search for us on the internet, you'll find us.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.